What's going on, everyone? I'm Natalie. Welcome to the Improvement for Imbeciles podcast. Today I'm joined with a very special guest, Miss Clark. Say hello.
Hey.
And today we're going to be talking about overstimulation and how we live in a world where we are constantly overstimulated by social media, by the world, by our jobs, and how do we disconnect in a world that aims to overstimulate us? Before we really get into it, I just want to ask, what is the first thing you do when you wake up?
Personally, I pray. I'm not going to lie.
See, you're better than me.
Well, I wake up already stimulated. I'm already anxious. So I'm like, I have to ground myself because I feel like the world, there's so much going on already. So I'm like, okay, I need to do something to ground myself. So that's my first thing. It used to be social media, but I was like, can't.
I've been getting a little bit better. I've been doing meditations in the morning, but I will say for a long time, the first thing I would do when I woke up was immediately check social media, immediately check my comments, immediately check my DMs. And it was just so much overstimulation right when I woke up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like we go from delta brainwaves and we try to go straight to beta brainwaves, which is when our brain is like super active. Think about, solving a math problem or doing something. It's like we go from a state of relaxation to immediate anxiety, especially when we wake up and go on social media or even just check our phones.
Mm-hmm.
So before we get into everything, we're just going to describe our own interpretations of what overstimulation is. So would you like to go first?
Sure. I think overstimulation is like a messy room. There's so much going on. You got clothes everywhere. You have to clean. Just so much that's going on that you don't know where to start. It's just too much for you. Like a lot, like really, really bright light or just so much that is coming at once.
Yeah, I feel that. Like the messy room is so true because I feel like that's often what my brain feels like. I know when we were going over topics for this podcast right before we started it, I had like a million tabs and Stephanie pointed to my screen and was just like, that's you. And I was like, that's so true. Like my brain is always on so many different wavelengths and I'm always thinking about so many different things. And as someone who overthinks and has always had anxiety, it's been very difficult for me to learn how to stay grounded. And in this episode, I'm really going to be going over the methods I use as a chronic overthinker to really ground myself back in reality. But we're also going to really be talking about that overstimulation. So for me, it's all of those tabs being open. It's chaos. It's feeling like I'm falling behind because of how chaotic my brain is moving. I'm just, my brain is going so fast and I don't have any time to catch up.
Yeah.
I want to talk about how overstimulation feels in the body first, because oftentimes our bodies notice we're overstimulated before our brain does. Our brain will tend to like overload things onto ourselves. So oftentimes, you might clench yourself. You might do certain soothing coping mechanisms where, like, not coping mechanisms per se, but you will do soothing gestures in your body language. So maybe you'll cross your arms or you'll scratch your neck or you'll start, I'm really bad at this. I start picking my scalp. I have this thing called keratosis pilarsis. So it's a skin condition where like basically the hair follicle gets caught and I have like these bumps on my arms. When I'm really anxious, I will just scratch my arms. And I've always done this, but I notice it happens more when I'm super, super anxious. I will just scratch myself and I will make myself bleed and I won't even realize I'm doing it. It's just like a mechanism. So whatever that is for you, I'm sorry for the visual, you guys,
it's true.
but it's really true. We all have things that we do to soothe ourselves, and oftentimes our body is way more aware of it than our brain is. So the first thing I'd like you guys to do is to really just tune into your body and ask yourself where you feel this anxiety. So for me, oftentimes I'll feel it in the heart. My heart will beat really fast. My throat will close. I don't know if you experience that, but where do you mainly feel it?
Where do I feel it? I feel it in my chest.
Yes,
I feel it in my chest. Also, I pick at my skin if I feel overstimulated. I feel like my thinking's going so fast that I'm just like, okay, I got to slow down. Relax, slow down.
Again, we are in a world that constantly tries to overstimulate us through so many different methods. And the first one I really want to talk about is how social media will often overstimulate you without even realizing it. Social media will control our emotions. So as we're scrolling, we don't recognize the state we're in. We'll become almost numb to our emotions. It's like you're going back and forth from a video where, let's say, this cute, happy little puppy, right? And then all of a sudden, it's like some super, super sad moment, or, it's just constantly shifting your emotions from moment to moment.
It's not normal. Why am I happy
Yeah.
now and then crying the next time?
Yeah,
That's weird.
It's not
That's
normal.
not normal.
And that's not that you can't be on social media. It's just be aware of what it does when you are on it. For me, like waking up in the morning, viewing social media will make me 10 times more anxious and honestly pessimistic throughout the day than when I wake up and I do a morning meditation or I do a prayer. It's always going to make me feel a lot more grounded to be in my own energy and allow myself to feel my emotions before I go into the day of being overstimulated, of having all of these things that I have to do. It's like there is always going to be the next thing to do.
We're never going to get there. So keep growing, keep going, be in the journey, be in the moment.
Yes, absolutely.
We'll get there eventually, but that shouldn't be the focus.
I agree.
We need to be in the moment.
Do you feel this constant need to perform nowadays due to social media?
Yes.
Oftentimes, like, I genuinely feel like I constantly have to be in performing mode when I talk to people. And it's difficult because, I'm also in different social media spaces. So, when people meet me, they'll be like, hey, I've seen you from your social media. And that's so cool. And I love doing what I do. And I love putting my message out there. But this idea that people know only this, like, small version of me can almost make me hyper focus or hyper fixate on my self concept way more than I feel like I would if I was just, performing at places talking about self development, like to people in front of people. It also makes it feel like the amount of people you're talking to aren't actually people online. And I know that sounds so detached, but that's genuinely how it is, especially when you start getting into posting on social media, because at one point, you'll get a good amount of views. And then at another point, it's like you're basing your worth on those views because it's like, oh, well, my audience liked this day, but why is it that my views dropped? It must be something wrong with me. And that's such a toxic way to view social media. But a lot of people deal with it, even if they don't use social media in a way of marketing themselves or doing something creative. They might just be feeling that way with their pictures that they post to their friends. Like, why did my friend comment on this one, but they didn't comment on this one? Type thing.
And I also talked to her about this earlier today, how I said Instagram used to be a photography page only for people that were doing photography. So going from that to completely like just anything and everything that's on there, it's weird because it's like it was so innocent before, and it was like I actually cared about what this person was doing and about their lives and getting to know them. Now it doesn't seem like we're actually connected. It's not even social media anymore. It's social media, and we're not really actually getting to know anybody anymore. We're disconnected.
Yeah, it's like that. It's like that one Drake quote. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm quoting Drake, bro. I cannot believe I'm quoting Drake. But like it goes, we live in a generation of not being in love and not being together, but we sure make it feel like we're together. And that is our generation in one quote. Like social media makes it feel like we're together and makes you feel like you're connected, but it's simulated connection. So you don't actually know these people in real life. You're just engulfed in their life almost as an escape from your own. And so what
Very
I noticed—
Very surface level, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it totally could be surface level, but sometimes it also gets deep nowadays on social media too, which is even worse because it gives you this false perception of other people's lives almost, like people will open up on the internet, but selectively sharing with you parts of their life. And now it's like that opens the door to people commenting on it
Right.
and invalidating your experience. And something that you might have thought would be liberating for you, like sharing a certain story on social media or starting to post something, can easily turn to something where now you're just feeling like, why did I even try?
Exactly. Because you want to be yourself, but you can't be yourself, especially when people are trying to mold you into being somebody that you're not.
I agree.
Yeah, like the people are just like, they want you to stay who you are forever. You can't evolve, you can't change. And it's so much like, you're not Superman, you're not Superwoman. You are who you are. We have limitations, but we also have great things, strengths about ourselves. But social media, it's just literally, it's like a melting pot of so much thinking. It's unhealthy. And it used to be good, but now it's just, it's so chaotic.
You're right. Chaos is the right word for that. And another thing is, I feel like a really good thing that I've adopted is the idea that everyone has their own subjective truth. And even then, people's subjective truths can always change. Mm-hmm. So on social media, we are viewing this stream of consciousness, right? And it's a collective consciousness, but it's also people's subjective consciousness. And sometimes it's like you see this person sharing themselves, and because it clashes with your view of the world, instead of removing yourself and going, I'm not interested.
Yes.
You have to prove your point of why you're right and this person is wrong. And it becomes so much more about proving yourself than it is about removing yourself from situations where you're not resonating with something. Right. And it's okay to not resonate. Right. It's so okay to say, I'm not interested, or I'm going to unfollow, or it's so valid to do that.
Also, you can add something to your mindset. It's okay to add. You don't have to invalidate your thought process just for somebody else's thought process. You could say, okay, that's a different perspective. I can add that. But I think that's exactly on the point, like right there. I agree.
Yeah, life is really just about like adopting and rejecting certain perspectives. I think I do this a lot in my life, where I'll adopt a certain perspective for an amount of time, and that perspective will, along the lines, not be relevant to me anymore. And I'm like, it's okay. I don't need to carry that. I don't need to carry this to my next level of life. This idea might have helped me when I was going through something. Maybe I was going through a heartbreak, and I adopted the idea that, I need to be a stronger person and, put on this really harsh coat. But then I realized, I need to open myself up. I need to get more vulnerable. And I let that go. Sometimes we do things to protect ourselves and adopt certain perspectives because that's all we know. And it's like a protective mechanism for that period of time. And it's meant to be let go. Yeah.
And it's okay to morph, to have that thought process for a moment. And then when you're in a different season, you may not have that same thought process anymore, but it will come back again in a different season, but it will morph into something different.
Exactly. And that's what's so beautiful. And I think, to get back to like the overstimulation of it all, I think there's this expectation on social media that we have to know. I think that's the main thing that I feel. It's like, I'm so overstimulated because everyone feels like they know what they're doing, but everyone's playing this huge game of proving themselves. And some people just know how to play it a lot better. Some people just know how to market themselves a lot better than you. And that is what it is. It is marketing. So when you're scrolling on social media and seeing all these people's lives, you start thinking about, well, my life doesn't look like that, but their life doesn't even look like that. They're just performing. They are just curating this idea of who they are and selling it to you, and you are buying it by continuing to view their content. And that's not even a malicious thing. That's just how marketing is nowadays. That's why creators get paid, because they are marketing themselves and they are effective at doing it. And so I had to go through a really big transformation, which I'm going to get into in a second, but like, I just want you to be on the same page as me real fast.
I'm here. I'm here with you.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I did social media ever since I was like 13 years old. And that might be like, oh, you just had an Instagram. No, like I did YouTube when I was 13 years old. And through that, I've always had some type of social media presence. And then when I was about like 16, I gained a platform on TikTok. And I remember I got my first like 100,000 followers on TikTok. I was just refreshing my feed. I felt like an algorithm rat.
Wow.
Okay, I felt like an external validation junkie because I was seeing all these people like me, and I thought they were liking me for me, and I just soak all of this up because for so long I felt like I wasn't valuable, like I wasn't worthy of any type of attention like that. But with algorithms also comes, dips in your views. And I remember from that point forward, my views started to dip, and immediately I would be like, I have to do more. I have to do more. I'd like put myself on this schedule where it was like, you have to post 3 times a day. You have to do all of this. I was doing so many things just to feel this idea of like, I am worthy.
Right.
People don't realize what being a creator really does to your self-concept. It's not only that you are being yourself on the internet and everyone loves you. No, you are curating an identity on the internet, and when people don't like you, you don't like yourself.
Wow. That's
so
deep. That's deep.
it's messed up. So
like loss of identity.
Yes, loss of identity. And I remember, so it went on and I continued growing a platform, and I just remember I'd post videos that I wouldn't always resonate with, but I still had this like calling to continue to post. But at some point I had to like delete social media. I went on a huge social media cleanse. And through that cleanse, it was so important because I was able to find myself again without the idea of what can I do online to prove myself that I am worthy to people. So with what I do now, I'm lucky that who I am is genuinely who I show up as, and I'm vulnerable enough to do that, but it's selective vulnerability. I don't share people's stuff that I'm not like 100% confident that I want to share with people.
And you shouldn't.
Yeah. And that's 100% okay.
And that's okay.
Mm-hmm. But,
okay.
Again, in a world where we're overstimulated, we see other people oversharing online. There's this idea that you must prove yourself. You have to post on social media. You have to be online and oversharing the deepest, darkest secrets of yourself. No, you don't. Mm-hmm. Especially if you're younger viewing this. Like, you don't have to prove anything to anyone. If you're sharing your art online, it's okay to share and just get off the app and not even look at the likes.
Right.
Getting back on social media was like a huge shift for me because I really had to start limiting my screen time and limiting like how much I can go on these apps and how much I can read the comments. Even though I love you guys and I love what you guys say, you guys write a lot of nice comments to me. There's always going to be those comments sometimes that's like,
dang.
Why?
Why?
And it's like, yeah.
And I feel like, too, social media can be like a God complex as well. Like when you have so many, kind of like, another level of celebrity, like you feel like you have, like when everything's going your way, you just have like this God complex. That's something that's been on my heart this year. So I don't know where that, but that's kind of how I feel. I feel like if you're going to post and ghost.
Post and ghost. That's a really good saying.
Post and ghost.
I couldn't imagine being like Charli D'Amelio or like, I know so many people are like.
But that's the thing. You can't control it.
You can't.
Like once it happens, it kind of happens and you're just like, well, I
can't
un-celebrity myself, know?
But it's so crazy because like I remember she got bashed so hard. I remember she was on a podcast where she talked about how when she reached 100 million followers, she was at like the most depressed point in her life. And I totally believe it, but everyone in the comments was like, boo-hoo, boo-hoo,
wow.
But like the thing is, it's like nobody can resonate with people who are at that level of celebrity nowadays on social media because they are so far removed from society. The entire idea of social media is you want to relate to people, but simultaneously, like once you curate an audience, like you no longer can relate to that audience because they put you on a pedestal.
Right.
And they'll get mad at you for that pedestal. But like, obviously there's a God complex there, but I totally don't disagree that like that could do something to your mental health and make you feel
like you're not
a lot
good
of
enough.
Shame. Yeah, a lot of shame. I couldn't imagine the amount of shame I would feel if I like gained all these followers and all of a sudden I'm just like, why me?
Yeah. Exactly.
What makes it about me? Like, I don't deserve any of this. Like, not feeling deserving of that. Again, everyone's at their own journey, but like, even just with my experience gaining only 100,000 followers at 16 years old, I remember what that did to me and how I developed like almost a social media addiction. And I could not imagine.
Can you explain that feeling?
Honestly, it was like urgency. It was like, I need to post. I need to continue. I need to prove myself. It was a God complex. It was a lot of the ego. It was a lot of like, I'm better than anyone who's doubted me. And I'm going to continue being better. And that sounds really bad to say, but that's what happens, especially when your brain is not developed yet and you get all of this external validation. Like
everything you wanted is happening.
Yes,
and you're just like, haha.
Yeah, it's like I just assumed that, like this is what I'm meant to do.
Exactly.
And in some ways it definitely was a lesson that I had to learn, but obviously that account didn't stay with me and I had to go through these periods where I had to learn a lot of things, and I'm glad I stayed grounded, but I could not imagine not staying grounded and getting to 100 million.
That's crazy. There's a million things that are happening on social media where it's not only just like California. You're getting people from all over the country and different cultures. So it's like, it's appropriate here, but then it's not appropriate there. So then somebody's opinion of this is going into your mind. So then it's all over the place. It's like a melting pot of just so much thinking, so much opinion. It's just too much.
It is, even for just like a regular person. So to tie this all back, I think...
Oh, I also think that those robots that are in the negative comments. I think they're like
robots.
Yeah, I think that they're fake robots that are just like, the ghost.
The bots.
Yes. I'm like, I
You're
think
a
they're
bot.
bots. I don't think they're real people.
Yeah, I think that is very true. Sometimes I do feel like it's easier to adopt that idea of like, oh, they're not real.
That can't be a person. I
mean, sometimes
it
I
could
do.
Be.
I've like, to be honest though, that idea that some people waste their time like that is crazy. Like if it's a constructive negative comment, okay. Like I completely understand. Like you said, I don't like this because A, B, and C. Have a good day. Mm-hmm. Like, good job. I'm okay with that, But some of these comments are just insane, especially like I feel like TikTok is probably the worst, which is why I'm not on TikTok as much. I feel like TikTok is just like people will say the craziest things. Like a girl will just be like dancing or something and everyone's in the comments
just go off.
Just like the most misogynistic comments you could ever think of.
And it's weird too because the comments and negative comments that you see, they're always on the top. You see all the good comments are on the bottom of the comments, but then you see like 5 negative comments, the first ones that you see, and then it's all the bad ones. So it's like, it's even worse. It's like, oh. Yeah. And it's like, we're kind of, in a sense, it's sad, but we're like addicted to more of like the negative comments than we are with the positive comments. Why are we bypassing all of the positive things, but never, we're always looking at, we're always valuing the more negative things instead of the positive. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's just me.
No, that's everyone. I think it's how our brain is. If we go back to, evolution, we were trained to view the negative things because if a predator is about to attack you, you're going to be like, what's going on? Fight or flight. Mm-hmm. It's like these apps are triggering those fight or flight mechanisms in our brains, the cortisol, the stress hormones. It's triggering that. Yeah, it's triggering that, but there's no imminent threat. It's just you are scrolling on a block. You are scrolling on a block and you are going from one emotion to the next. Just because you are attached to viewing this little block and what is being said on your block. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's really just about viewing it from that angle of like, I'm getting upset on what's on my block right now. I'm going to turn off this
over
block.
A stranger that knows nothing about me.
Yeah. So it's like you get into this like proving energy. And there's also like, besides just strangers, I think the perception of people viewing you and judging you will cause you a lot of stress. I agree. In general, a lot of FOMO specifically. It took me so long to start posting what I really wanted to online because the first thing was like, what if people who are my mutuals see this?
What is my family going to think? What is my friends going to think?
What are my families going to think? What are my friends going to think? And there was a lot of people who would come up to me and go, oh, like, you have a podcast? You like, oh, I've seen your YouTube videos. And it'd be like more of a joking type way. And at first it's something I kind of had to get over because I had to realize like they don't see my vision and that's okay. And it's not their job to see my vision. So at some point you can't be like, they're the reason I'm not going after what I want to do. at some point you have to be like, it's okay that they don't see it, but I see it and I know where my purpose is at on this. So like having a purpose for social media is something that really helped me be grounded and also not be so overstimulated on it and like being more of an external validation junkie because of it, you know?
So, I agree. Yeah. I mean, that's the reason why I stayed off social media for well, not stay off, but not posting as much, because what are people going to think, especially my immediate friends or family, you know, and just feeling judged. It's just like, that's just not who I am in reality. But being on social media, it's like you put it on a pedestal and it's like, it's really not that serious. Honestly, it's really not.
It's not that serious.
Yeah. And it's like, why don't I just post what I like? And if they like it, then I shouldn't care.
Yeah.
You know?
Did you feel like that with a lot of like when you started getting more into photography and stuff, of like posting more creative shoots?
I'm trying to figure that out. I think a lot of things internally I was dealing with. So a lot of like my self-esteem went down, my confidence went down. So it's more of like my reality of things that were going on that made me feel like that. And social media was just a reflection, you know, of not doing what I really love. Or, you know, like for instance, when filters started coming out, oh, you see this person that's like freaking in Dubai and they have this type of filter. I have to be like that. So I was trying to mold my photography and being how the filter should be. But I'm like, that's not me. And that's the thing. I was trying to mold myself and being a photographer that I'm not. And it took me a long time because I really like my photography in the beginning was very natural, very cool, whatever. But then as I start seeing everybody else being on social media all the time, and it just made me like, okay, well, if they're doing that, then I need to do that too. And now my pictures look like crap until I came back to who I was. And I'm like, okay, this is who I am.
You know what I just thought of? Filters are a really, really good metaphor for like what social media is. So you'll take a regular situation and you'll turn up the saturation. You'll make it seem like this huge thing, you know, you're doing this big thing in life. And, you know, but it's like just someone like going to the grocery store and like making food for their family. You know?
Something normal.
It's like, but like they make it seem so extra, and I love it because it's like marketing. But then you're sitting there with your super messy kitchen because you actually just made a meal that tastes real good. You know, like you didn't have to do all of the decor on it and make it look Instagrammable, but all of a sudden you just feel like crap about what you just made because it doesn't look like what you saw on Instagram. It doesn't look like the recipe you followed.
So then now you're not posting.
And now you're not going to post it, or now you're not even going to eat it because you're like, damn, let me do it again.
Let me do it again.
Social media takes regular situations and puts a filter on it, turns up the saturation, makes it the most extra thing. And then people
that's not even real.
Consume it as regular content, as if that's what their life is supposed to be. That is not real. Social media is not real. Stop basing your life off of social media, because what happens when you do that, you become an external validation junkie. You won't do something unless you get the likes for it, unless you get the follows for it, unless other people are approving of what you're doing. You're not doing it because of the intrinsic motivation of like, I just want to do this because I want to create and it makes me happy. Right. It's okay to have that be the only reason you do something, of like, it just makes me happy.
Right. And that's
nowadays,
okay.
It's like, you got to prove. You got to prove like, I'm doing this because of blah, 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 blah. And it's like, can't you just do it because it's cool?
You like it? Just because you like it?
Just because?
Right.
Like, just because is a good enough reason.
I agree. You don't have to explain yourself to anybody.
Yeah. I want to get a little bit more into FOMO because I feel like overstimulation also totally ties into FOMO in the way of social media. You know, like we're constantly overstimulated with what our friends are doing, and what other people are doing sometimes is none of our business.
Right.
And that's okay that it's none of their business. Have you ever experienced a lot of like FOMO on social media?
Oh, man, I have a thought. I don't know. I feel like me at my age, I should be way further than where I should be at right now. You know, 32 years old, I see people that are married, that have kids, that have blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, okay, I don't have any of that. So it definitely makes me feel like FOMO, I'm missing out on what a 32-year-old should be. FOMO, falling behind for sure. Not being in the career that I've always dreamed of, or being married because I'm 32 and things like that. Having a family, or just like the dream that I've always wanted hasn't came to life. And basically just completely starting over my whole entire life, being a completely different person, while you see other people that are my age that seem like they have it all together. And it's like, wow, you know, like I should be further, you know, in my life because of my age, you know? So that's like my part of my FOMO.
That's so valid, especially for a lot of other people out there who are your age too, because it's like everyone will share online their entirety of their lives and assume that like you're there right there with them, when it's like everyone's at their own place. Like literally, I saw this one post, of course it was on social media, but it was like, I never judge anybody because I know I'm one flop away from, you know, not being where I want to be or being right in that spot. And that's so true, because like you never know what life brings you. So you can't judge people just based on their age or just based on what they look like or anything like that, because you never know what is going on in someone's psyche, what people are going through. Everyone has their own struggles, and it's not up to one person to judge that or belittle that. And I think oftentimes social media just like automatically jumps on people and makes you feel like that, because again, people will take a position, you know, I'm this at this place with my life and blah, blah, blah. They're trying to prove themselves. They're secretly not at the place, you know, they don't even like their job. They feel like their marriage isn't going good. They feel like they're dissatisfied with XYZ. So you can't ever judge a book by its cover, ever.
Right.
Genuinely.
I agree.
It's a lot easier to do the status quo. It's a lot easier to go along with what's normal. Have a family, have kids, whatever, like get married.
Have the easy, stable job.
Yeah. It's a lot easier than to be a creative or to make sure you're standing on your values and not just dating someone or getting married to someone because it's about that time. And I guess it's just what I should be doing at my age. You know what I mean?
And that's the thing. When I really think about it, I'm actually happy that everything turned out to be how it is. Even though it was really, really hard, but it's kind of as if I left the old toxic stuff about me and made a me that's better than how I was before. So in a sense, it's like, oh, I'm so sad that like, I imagine my life to be completely different than what it is. It's exactly what needed to happen, or it exactly is who made me who I am today. And I'm very happy about that.
I'm so proud of you. Of course, I'm so proud of you, genuinely. Like, even when it comes to college, like, I remember when everyone was going off to college, they were getting accepted to these universities and stuff, and, you know, moving across the country and doing all of that. And I was like, okay, I'll just, like, go to community college. I didn't really know what I wanted to do.
Right.
And I'm still, like, I'm probably going to just stop at my associates just because it's not resonating with me. But here I have the world telling me exactly what I should do, what I should be. And if I don't do that, then I'm going to be a failure and nothing's going to work out in life. Right. And as long as you release those things that are no longer meant for you, like everything will come together. Everything will come together, exactly. I swear, because sometimes it's like people hold on to things and just do things because it's just what they're supposed to do. But like we march to the beat of our own drum. That's
why we can't get that dance right.
That's why we can't get that dance right. Oh my God, you guys. I'm going to tell you guys about this. I'm in a pageant right now, and we're doing this choreographed dance. I felt like I was falling behind in that dance, and that's like a really good analogy for this too, because I feel like I was very overstimulated in that scenario. So we have this choreographed dance that we're doing for a pageant we're in. And at first, you know, there were not really many cameras, but then we went out into the room and we started doing it with music. And all of a sudden, everyone has their phones out. Everyone's recording. Mind you, I'm not a professional dancer, and we're doing this in heels. So not only do I have a different dominant foot than our instructor, but I start doing the dance and I just keep messing up. And so I just like sit down, and then all of a sudden they go from doing like half speed where the music is all slowed down of like, they go from doing like half speed to full speed, and all of a sudden, like all the girls are like 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm like,
hold on.
I'm like, wait a second. And then, mind you, the cameras are out. I probably would have had a fun time if the cameras just weren't on me. But the idea of like me having to perform, something about that just brought me out of my element and made me feel a lot more insecure because why am I trying to prove myself to people through, an art form that is new to me?
Yeah.
Like I'm not a dancer.
Yeah,
So
and something that's not natural.
yeah, something that's
to you.
unnatural to me,
Yeah.
like this is like my
It was a
first ever
lot.
pageant and it was just a lot. And so I had to ground myself because I started getting really frustrated with myself because I just wasn't getting it right. I started feeling left behind. And the feeling of being left behind is probably one of the worst feelings because you feel inadequate and you feel incompetent. I think that's a very good word.
That's
incompetent.
Good. Yeah.
Like it's rough and it's like that's what social media really makes me feel as of recent.
Like you always have to scale up every single time. And it's like, this is something I was talking to my friend about. It's like, it's about being in the journey. It's not the destination. We have to be in the moment and we have to just enjoy where we're at instead of always looking at the destination because the destination's already there.
Yeah.
But it's like, we're always focused on like, getting there. And it's like, I think that's really where like the stress comes from and the anxiousness. And it's like, why don't we just like.
I think I've really had to do that with my content as of recently because I have grown a lot on my YouTube channel. And now that I'm able to get all of these opportunities, it's like a lot of things are coming my way and I'm so grateful for them. But there's this feeling of urgency, like I have to take it, like I have to do everything, like I have to go to every event. And I had to slow myself down because I was realizing like I am burning myself out and I'm trying to be 10 million people at once. Yeah. It feels like I'm trying to do everything. And the root of why I was doing that was I felt like it was never going to last. And I felt like if I don't continue doing what I'm doing, then everything is going to fall apart and I will never get this opportunity again. And I had to stop myself because I realized like that is a scarcity mindset. And I was dealing with this scarcity of like, I am not worth what I'm worth, like I was feeling like I'm going to miss the opportunity. I'm going to miss the bus. I'm going to be left behind. And that feeling made me so anxious, made me so overstimulated. And I realized like the key to reversing that was not to like double down on I need to do more. The key was to do less and go, whatever's meant to be will be.
I love
like
that.
Really believing that what is meant for you will never pass you by because sometimes we forget to have faith. We forget to trust God and the universe and just go like, I know this opportunity is meant for me. And if it's meant to be, I will be in it. Exactly. If I'm meant to be in this pageant, I'll be in this pageant. And it ended up that I'm, going in this pageant and it's like this cool opportunity. But, there's this like anxiety of like, I have to do. I have to prove. And it's like, the more I'm in that energy, the less I'm in my own energy.
And just being.
Being creative. Like it's so hard too, because like there's this pressure put on creativity. Do you ever feel that?
Yeah,
like
100%.
You have to be creative. You have to be consistent. You have to be all of these things. And if you're not those things, then you don't make the cut and you suck. And you suck. And it's so sad because it's like now that I have people watching me almost and there's my audience and I'm so grateful for how much I've grown. There is this pressure of like, if I don't do it now, people aren't going to care anymore. I'll be irrelevant. And that's just not how it is. So I've had to ground myself back to reality and be like, I'm more focused on the message. The reason I started this was because I wanted to share my experiences and I wanted to be authentically myself and just be. The more I try to perform, the less I'm being authentic.
Right.
So,
I agree.
Yeah, that's my little spiel.
It's all about the purpose. I think right now in my life I think why it's so hard for me to make a decision or a direction because I want to make sure the direction makes sense for my life and it has meaning and it has purpose. So it's like if you're going to be on social media, have a purpose, have a reason being on it. The decisions that you're making, one decision can change your whole entire life. So is this taking me to my purpose? You know, is there a reason why I'm here? Or like the whole FOMO situation. Should I feel bad for missing out on something, but that something might not be for me? You know, and
Yeah.
that's okay.
That's
You know,
okay. Not
yeah,
everything is
for me.
you.
Yeah. And I don't want everything. I really don't. So
Yes.
I really think it's just like, what's your purpose? What's your reason? Have a reason of what you're doing.
You were talking about the why of like, you have so many different options, but oftentimes when we get into those what ifs, they're not based in reality. They're based on our fear.
I agree.
They're based on our worst fear of what could happen. But like, what if it doesn't? What if it actually goes great? What if it goes exactly how you want?
Mm-hmm.
It's easier to play it safe than to really go within and go, you know, I have a calling. I can think about all of these decisions that I could make and how each one of them could change the rest of my life. But like, honestly, sometimes it's just best to go with your gut.
Right.
Sometimes it's best to shut out all of that because you do have a purpose. And the reason why your calling was placed within you was because you were meant to fulfill it.
It's for you.
It's for you, like trusting in that spiritual, I'm meant to do this thing. Courage is never present without fear. In order to have courage, you must have fear. You must be fearful of whatever you know you want to do. But deep, deep down, you must know that it is meant for you. And you must lean into that.
I agree.
And this talk became so spiritual. I know it was about overstimulation, but sometimes we can really get overstimulated by the what ifs and the hypotheticals of whatever we want to create in life. But the fact is, you have a desire to create. And whatever that is, whatever the first step is, it doesn't matter what it is. It matters if you take that first step.
Just do it.
What if you showed up for yourself the same way you show up for your boss?
Right.
What if you were scared of failing yourself the same way you're scared of showing up 10 minutes late? Like,
I agree.
I'm so scared I'm going to get fired. I'm going to fire myself. If I don't show up for myself this week, I am firing myself.
Or take away something that you love, like social media.
Yeah, like learning how to hold yourself to things. Like, what if you genuinely showed up for yourself the same way that you so desperately want someone to show up for you?
Right.
You know, that's so powerful,
I
you know?
agree.
And I honestly think that idea has helped me get through a lot of different things and like remove myself from overstimulation. And the thing is, it's like, at the root of overstimulation, it's scarcity, it's fear, it's this idea that you will never make it, you will never be where you want to be, and like you have to.
Right.
It's like this have to.
I also
But-
think it could be like burnout as well.
Yeah, burnout.
Because for me, I was doing hair, which this is another topic. I hated hair, honestly. But I was doing it, but I felt like I had to perform so much. And also all my other passions were just on the back burner to the point where burnout had happened, you know? And
Getting out of being overstimulated is also a part of giving yourself the space to recollect.
Yeah.
So oftentimes we assume that in order to stop being overstimulated, you know, we pile on more because when we don't feel adequate, we feel like I need to do more because I need to prove to other people that I am more.
Yes.
That's not how it is.
Yes.
You need to do less because if you are not less, you cannot be more for others. How do you expect to be more for others when you are constantly lowballing yourself to yourself?
Right.
You are going to burn yourself out. The solution is not to do more, it's to do less, to give yourself the space to recollect so you can do more.
I agree.
So you can show up better next time.
Right.
Now let's go into solutions. I think we've been talking a lot about the things that have overstimulated us.
Ooh,
and,
we
you know,
overstimulated with this topic, honey.
Yeah, we're overstimulated. Again, notice it in your body first, and then as you notice it in your body, bring awareness through your body. So a lot of times people will be more numbed out. I think social media is a way to numb out. You know, overstimulation is a way to numb out. That's why people go to parties and go to different things. It's like they want to not feel how they're currently feeling. So oftentimes when you stop being overstimulated, you'll think, oh, I'm supposed to feel better. but oftentimes
It's just
you'll just be
driving it more.
reminded of all of the things you were avoiding.
And you're just driving the pain even more.
Yeah. So I want to talk about specifically when you're feeling overstimulated, oftentimes you're removed from your body. You're removed from how you're currently feeling. So you'll be overwhelmed by all of these feelings that are coming back to you. And they will often start within the body.
Mm.
So some things you can do. Number one, breathing exercises. If you look up meditations or even just breathe in, hold your breath, breathe out. Just learning how to redirect your energy back into your body can really help with destimulating you and allowing you to see things from a different perspective. If you're feeling an emotion, if you need to cry, if you're feeling a lot of pent-up anger or whatever it is, identify it. Sometimes you need to write it out. Sometimes you need to
Just be honest.
Be honest with yourself. Sometimes what helps me, this is like if you're really going through it, sometimes I talk to myself in the mirror, literally. Because if nothing else, that person that's looking back in the mirror is feeling the same way you're feeling. Think of who you are in the mirror as a completely separate person. They're feeling exactly how you feel. You are not alone in how you're feeling.
Yeah.
And I know that's like some crazy mental gymnastics, but like it's really helped me in some of the darkest periods of my life to really be like, I'm right here with me. Another thing, have you heard of like EFT tapping?
I think you said it earlier.
Yeah. So
Something
it's like
calming.
you're tapping your forehead, tapping different places on your body. A lot of people do finger tapping when they're super anxious. I do that in public because I've always suffered from like social anxiety. Actually, I'm not going to say the word suffered. I didn't suffer. I've overcome social anxiety through different things because now you wouldn't even think I have social anxiety because I'm able to stay grounded within what I do. But if you were to see me when I was like in high school, like I literally was that person who wasn't able to go to rallies or like, wouldn't go to these places because it would just be way too much for me. Or I'd just be so in my head about what other people were thinking about how, like trying to prove myself to other people, prove to people that I was someone worth befriending. And it was just so much mental turmoil I put myself through. So if you're going through that, like you are not alone in that.
I find that when I'm overstimulated, like for instance, like I said, when I wake up and I have like a lot of anxiousness, waking up, my first thing is prayer. I write down in a journal and I am honest. I talk to God and I'm just like, I'm honest with him. He's like my best friend. I'm just like, this is how I feel. And I feel like this instant peace for me. Also, when I was kind of going through my stuff as I was in my 20s, I was overthinking a lot. I calmed myself down and I'm like, okay, Stephanie, it's really not that big of a deal. It's all right. Like, it's okay. Calm myself just by just kind of stopping in that moment when you are going so fast in your mind and just stopping, taking a moment, like she was saying, just breathing. Also like taking a shower.
Yeah, envisioning all of this stress just like being removed from your body, being cleansed from your body. Going out in nature, taking a walk. Like sometimes like you will be angry or pissed off. Go walk it off.
I also think like
sometimes,
just being like in the now or like maybe like cleaning. I know that sounds kind of funny, but that is something that can help as well.
Another thing I really want to say is these apps make it almost impossible for you to disconnect from them. It's okay to take space for yourself. It's okay to delete the app. It's okay to set your screen time and go, if you have my number, then text my number. One thing that I've noticed is while I've been involved in a lot of different, social events and other things, it's like all of the DMs are on Instagram, right? So I've been going in and I've been like typing in my screen time password to give me more screen time. And it's been just like another way for my brain to trick me into scrolling more. And I'm like, okay, I need to stop doing that. Like once I have my time up, my time's up.
Right.
And that's okay. If you don't have my number, you're not that important. If you can't text me and say, hey, this is what's going on, then you're not that important to me and I'm off social media for the day. Think of a world where all social media just like turns off at 6 p.m. Like worldwide, once your time zone reaches 6 p.m., it's done. It's over.
We get a lot of things done.
We'd get a lot more. And I also feel like that would be a lot more therapeutic because just as businesses close at 7 or whatever, entertainment is always on.
Yep.
We are constantly on social media. Like, it's crazy how our screen times are, but the thing is, it's like so bad for us.
And also, I think about our health as well, because when you have all this anxiousness or this pent up, like going, like, can you imagine what's happening to your nervous system? What's happening to your health because you're not able to just sit and just calm down and relax,
Yeah.
you know?
All right. With that being said, you guys, thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Improvement for Imbeciles podcast. Thank you, Stephanie or Miss Clark, for being on. Be sure to go check her out. Say your Instagram name.
MSS Clark.
MSS
Miss
Clark.
Clark.
And then be sure to check out my Instagram. I know we were talking about social media the entire time, but check out my Instagram at mylifeasetched. That's ETCH. Don't be overstimulated. Take time for yourself and truly know that you are worthy of whatever you want to achieve in this life. And you don't have to do so much in order to get there. You don't have to be overstimulated to get there.
And step back and just appreciate what you have, who you are, and where you're at.
With that being said, you guys, thank you guys so much for tuning into the Improvement for Imbeciles podcast. Stay stupid, my friends. I'll see you in the next one.